Hi, and welcome to the Polyverse Living channel, a new series on the Poor Life Choices Network. In this series, we'll be covering virtual worlds, from text worlds like Muds, Mucks, and Moos, through graphical worlds like Second Life, Arcadia, and others, all the way up to modern virtual reality worlds like VRChat, Neos, Helios, Chill Out VR, and whatever else ends up on the market. We'll be going over what you can do in these worlds, how you access them, and most importantly, how they work. Now today we'll be going over one of the most frequent questions I get, which is how I access VR virtual worlds. I'll be going over my VR setup, which includes this Index headset with way too much crap stuck to it. So I'll be breaking down what everything is doing on this headset, as well as some of the other equipment I wear like haptics vests and whatnot. If you're interested in content like this, feel free to hit those like and subscribe buttons, as I'll be posting more videos soon. And also take a look at my Patreon, where I'll be posting information about my setup, as well as instructions on how you can replicate it. With that out of the way, let's get started. Now, before we get into all of this hardware and everything else that I've put together, I should talk about why I'm using it. This is not your normal VR channel of games and virtual worlds and everything else. No, this is specifically about virtual worlds and my experience in them. So all of the hardware that I am about to show you is really put together in service of two things. The first and most important one is making me this sexy Arctic fox ass sumbitch you see right here. The second one is going to be deepening the immersion and experience of those around me by making me the best sexy Arctic fox ass sumbitch you see right here. So everything around this is, how can I make my avatar more immersive? How can I create a deeper experience in virtual worlds, as well as providing that to others through this avatar and the hardware I've put together. Now that said, there's not a lot special happening in world here. This is a VR chat world right now, and the avatar that I am using is a fairly stock Julia Winterpaw canine base with some texture modifications, shader modifications, and other add-ons that I've made. I'll be going over these in future videos, but for now, you can basically consider that for everything I'm about to show you, this is how it comes out. Now, before we get into how everything works on this headset, I want to get into how I keep things attached. I've got multiple things on here that actually need to stay hooked to this whenever my head is moving around. So I am using just these 3M double-sided command strips. You can get these at Walmart, Target, places like that in the US, or just off Amazon. And these are just double-sided sticky tape strips that are easy to pull off, so very easy to remove from the headset. You don't want to use these Velcro ones that they put out. I was originally using that because I wanted to take this stuff off. I'm not going to be using it all the time, but the problem is it also falls off when it is in use. With the double-sided sticky versions, I can be ducking and weaving in Beat Saber or something like that, and everything stays on just fine. I haven't had these fall off, and this has been on here for about a month now, so highly recommend those. So next up, let's talk USB hubs, because I've got a lot of stuff to power and talk to on this headset. So, of course, the Index has a single USB jack up front, and I am using a really cheap USB 2 hub that cost about $9. Got it off Amazon. Thanks to Selivar for pointing this out to me. I was using a little USB 3 hub. Unfortunately, USB 3 has a lot of noise, so you, if you're running this with radios like the tracker dongles or something like that, you'll get a massive amount of dropout on those if you use a USB 3 hub. USB 2 works just fine. I'll have a link to this one in the description. The nice thing about this one is it's thin enough that it's pretty easy just to mount on the headset, and it's super light. And it seems to do everything I need. Right now I have all three tracker dongles on it, plus sometimes I'll put the face tracker on it. I've never seen speed issues. Now, in terms of running the tracker dongles off the USB hub, this is something that I did specifically because I was getting a massive amount of tracker dropout when running them off of hubs sitting on my desk. Anytime I would turn away from the hub, my hips would drift off into the world, and it looked really weird. So I just decided to try hooking all of my tracker dongles onto the headset. So Two of them are fed through the removable faceplate right here. So they're just hanging out up here. They don't get in the way. They don't really hit me in the face. I don't even notice them. And then I put one up here using a cable holder and one of the 3M command strips. So this has kept everything working great for me. I'm actually a little bit surprised by that, as there is at least a Bluetooth radio also in the Index headset itself, but I have not actually seen any sort of interference from that yet. Can't say that I recommend doing this unless you're also having massive dropout issues, but really this solution with the USB hub and the extensions, which are about 1.5 feet each, I'll have all this in the description, costs about $20, so it's worth a shot. So for trackers, not much to say here. This is just a Vive V2 tracker. I run 3 V2s, one on each foot, one on my hips. They're just using regular old cloth straps, so no backup batteries right now. These get about 3.5, 4 hours of battery life to them, but I'm rarely in world for longer than that. Yeah, these are no modifications or anything like that. These are fairly normal. I will certainly be looking at the Tundra trackers and absolutely getting one of their combined dongles when those come out. Those look like they're going to be really interesting, and if you're curious about those, I'll have some links in the description that show off more about what. Now, in order to be able to see in world, because I normally wear glasses, but I really don't want to wear them on my headset, I use VR optician lenses. So you can order these off their website. You just send them your prescription, and in a couple of weeks, if not longer, depending on their lead time, you will get back these nice lenses that are in a 3D printed casing. And these, they make them specific to whatever headset you have. So if you don't have an Index, you've got an Oculus or something like that, you can get them for that too. And these just mount right into the headset. So you can just mount them over the eyepiece. And there you go. Now you've got prescription lenses for your headset. My prescription is not super high, so these are just doing a small adjustment for me, but I have friends that have much larger prescriptions. They say it makes VR completely usable for them, so highly recommended. Now, next up is the DIY portion of this headset, the ear and head haptics. This is a system that I've built myself. It's currently a prototype. I've spent maybe a day working on all of this, so there's a lot to refine here. But what this is a small coin motor that's mounted on a 3D printed ear pod holder. So you would use like an AirPod or something like that and put it on your ear. I just taped the motor to this because it was a nice model to fit around my ears. These are wired to some haptic motor drivers right here, just stock Adafruit breakouts. And those go to a Raspberry Pi Zero W, which then talks via Wi-Fi to the main computer running VRChat or Neos or something like that. So what this allows you to do is if you set up some regions on your avatar, you can pet their ears or some other part of their body, and it will cause these to vibrate. So here's some video of that working. As you can see, like I've got this pillow that's working as the collider for these areas. And as I move it, you can see like when it's colliding with that area, it turns green. When there's nothing in there, it turns red. And the speed of the vibration is changed by where the collider is happening within that area. So if it's at the top, it's pretty slow. If it's at the base, it's much faster. Now, I'm not saying that these actually feel like being pet. It more feels like having a small cell phone behind your ears. But the idea here is that instead of needing a mirror to see when someone is behind you and touching you or something like that, much like the Haptics vest I'll show later, this gives you haptic feedback. So you can actually know when someone's coming up and patting you on the head. For the future of this, all of these units are modular, so I should be able to build more than 2. And the idea is, at least for the head, to have one of these for each ear, plus 3 or 4 going down this headband, so you can also have head pats. I'll have information on all of this on my Patreon. It's pretty easy to build. All of this is stock parts. The code is all open source, so happy to talk to more people who want to build things like this and make this system better. And I'll be doing a full video on this later, too, that goes over the whole software stack and whatnot behind it, too. Now, something I don't use a ton at the moment, but I'm hoping to soon, is the HTC Vive face tracker. Got this when it came out. It is supported in Neos and in VRChat via a mod. The problem was I've got an index that's made for the Vive, so how do I mount it? I found this mounting bracket on Reddit, and so 3D printed that. It's actually a fairly difficult 3D print because of the structure of it, and got some of these magnets off of KJ Magnetics, and so this just hooks to the front of the headset like so. So it uses the same pieces as the Frunk cover right here. There's some holes with magnets in them. Mounts right on, and it stays there solidly. So at least have a way to do that now, and hopefully we'll be using that more in the future as it sees more support. So with all of this crap on my headset, you're probably like, but qDot, doesn't that get incredibly heavy? And the answer is absolutely. So in order to at least balance the front and back of the headset, because there's just so much crap on this thing right now, I'm using the Studio Form Creative set of back weight and Apache strap. So this strap is just a fabric strap that goes over the earpieces, and gives you a tighter fit on the headset. Like once you get this thing on there, it's super snug. It's not going anywhere. Once again, no matter how you move. So with a Beat Saber session or something like that, once again, it's not coming off. And this back weight, it's about 200 grams. So this just balances the front and back a little bit more. It makes my neck less tired. It goes on the back right here, and you just fold this over, and there you go. Now you've got some extra weight on the back to balance anything that might be happening up front. They send extra Velcro just to keep that nice and safe. And all in all, it's been a fantastic addition that just keeps this thing welded to my head no matter what the situation is. Next up is the Woojer strap. So this is a Haptics subwoofer. What this does is if there is a sound under about 100 to 200 hertz, it takes that and translates it into a rumble motor. So if there is music playing in a virtual club, or you're surrounded by people and they're talking, you can actually kind of feel that through this implement. And there's multiple places where you can mount it. If I'm not using my Haptics vest, I'll mount it on my chest. If I am, I can mount it against my spine, which the bHaptics vest doesn't cover. So it's still usable even with the vest. And to hook this up, I use a regular 3.5 millimeter audio cable that goes from here, and then I have a small extension that comes out of the index. So there's a little audio jack up here that you can use. You'll want to get a special extension because otherwise it'll push this faceplate back, but you just hook that up, set it up in SteamVR to mirror the audio out of your index, and you're ready to go. And it just adds a little bit of extra neat immersion to the system. Now this thing's kind of hard to fit on my desk all at once, is the bHaptics Tactsuit X40. This is a haptics vest that's about the size of a small life preserver. It's actually fairly small. If you back up to that portion of the video with me wearing everything, you can see that it looks kind of silly on me. This has 40 haptic motors in it, each of which is individually controllable. So the idea is here you set up a whole bunch of colliders on your avatar, and then if someone like puts their hand on you or something like that, everything in this area is going to react. It's really interesting, but the other thing is it's also very, very loud. So here's a quick demo of me using it in World, just to give you an idea of what it sounds like through the index mic, as well as what it looks like on the avatar. Now, this thing is super interesting to use, but I don't use it all the time for two reasons. First off, it weighs about 5 pounds, so it gets a little tiresome to use after a while, and also it is as warm as it looks. It will definitely hug you pretty well because you want to keep it on fairly tight to make sure all the motors are contacting your body as much as possible. And so it tends to warm up, especially when you've got two warm TVs strapped to your head and a computer running a GPU at full speed. So it's still neat and worth it. And I mean, there have been points where I have worn it for hours at a time before I do come out feeling kind of numb after that. But and it has a pretty serious punch to it too. It's very powerful, but the nice thing is you can scale the intensity. So it's pretty neat to add to the avatar. So if you're wondering how everything is stored and charged, that's what this setup is. I'm using a pretty simple index stand that I got off of Amazon. It'll hold the controllers and the headset. For the trackers and the Woojer, I just have some headphone mounts that I've 3D printed. And then finally, for charging, I'm using an Anker 10-port USB hub. This is just for power. There's no actual data going through it, but it does what I need in order to make sure that all of my trackers and controllers are charged. So one of the analog implements I use for VR chat and Neos and other social worlds is this collar. As you can see on my avatar, it has a collar on it and has a little tag and things like that. So just happen to have this one kicking around my room. It's pretty comfy, and so it can be worn for long periods of time. And it just so happens that since it has metal on it, it actually sounds like the tag clinking around when I move my head. Does it add a little bit of clothing-based immersion with no electronics whatsoever. It also causes audio triggers through the index mic, and since that's close enough to where the tag actually is, it kind of adds some extra sound effects to the avatar without having to upload them in real time and have to trigger them through animations or something like that. So kind of an interesting way to do that too. Now, of course, there are other body parts that I have in VR that, unfortunately, I don't have in real life. For instance, my tail. So what can I do about having a tail in VR while not having one in real life? Well, luckily, there's a few products out there that can help with this. So for adding a tail to the avatar, I'm looking at the tail company MyTail. This is a really new product. It just kickstarted in May of 2021. Passed with no problems. Unfortunately, I missed that, but I've got a pre-order in for their versions that are shipping in August 2021. And this is really interesting because it is a Bluetooth controllable tail. So you can actually have it move based on commands that you send it, at which point I can have that relay based on the physics from VR chat or Neos or something like that. And so, yeah, this is going to be really interesting because I've been looking at fursuit tails for that extra analog feeling of weight and movement against legs and whatnot. But with this may actually be able to map to interactions in World 2. So once I get that, I'll be doing another video on it, and we'll see where that goes. So that's it for this episode of Polyverse Living Channel. In future videos, I'll be going over different aspects of what I showed on this headset, including how you choose a USB hub, what's going on with the whole ear haptics thing, how I use the bHaptics vest, and other things that I've mentioned. Once again, if you like this, please like and subscribe so you can get notifications when further videos are posted. And if you're interested in building the stuff yourself or talking to me, please join our Patreon or check out our Discord server, or possibly both. Until next time, I'll see you in World.